Well, here we are in Austin, Texas, having a look at the all-new 2015 Chrysler 300. Now, full-size cars in Canada only account for about 1% of overall sales, but Chrysler has positioned this car, if you are in the market for a full-size car, to have the most value. They sell it as the Touring. This is the S model. Then they have the 300C, and the top-of-range model is the 300C Platinum. They think this is going to be the volume seller. The S model starts at $40,000 with a V6, and if you want all-wheel drive, you can only get all-wheel drive in V6 models is $2,200 more. Aggressive looking car. You might remember in 2005 when the 300 came out and it was bam, it got a lot of attention, a great car, but they kind of softened the look of it in 2011. Well, they've gone back to that aggressive look now for 2015 with a bigger grille, actually bigger than it was in 2005. All new front end of this, all new back end. Around the back, you'll notice the square exhaust tips. They've got new tail lights that are not as vertical as the 2011, and they also brought the bumper up just a little bit and made it look a little bit lighter overall. Now, the S model comes with 20-inch wheels as standard equipment and a great looking car. Not as aggressive as the Dodge Charger, and I think they're really trying to differentiate the two. The Charger is going to be the more performance model, the Chrysler is going to be the more luxurious trim line. But this is a great looking car, and it's always been one of my favorites. Both of them are built off the same platform, and they're wonderful cars to drive. So we're going to look inside and then tell you more about what's under the hood. Now, the changes we've seen in other Chrysler products has migrated into this 300, and they all center around the information and the entertainment system. So standard on the 300 is the 8.4-inch Uconnect system. Now, a lot of other Chrysler products, you get the 5-inch and you pay extra for the 8.4. They've done that as standard equipment. Also standard equipment is the 7-inch TFT screen behind the steering wheel and the instrument cluster. That's standard equipment as well. I'm not a big fan of the hue that comes off the gauges. The previous 300 had a beautiful instrumentation, but they couldn't keep that because they had to get this 7-inch screen in there. I'm not a big fan of the way it looks, but that's just personal taste. You also notice the rotary dial here for the shifter. That's the same across all of the 300s now. It's a very clean and simple interior. Some might call it a little bit stark, but you can't fault them for cleaning everything up. You'll also notice there's a new steering wheel in here. That has the same switch gear you're seeing in other Chrysler products to connect to the Uconnect system and to the TFT screen. Now there's so many different trim levels in this car. You can get the basic Touring all the way up to the Platinum 300C that has beautiful quilted seats with Napa leather, a leather wrapped dashboard. That's really high-end stuff you typically don't see in a car costing this much. So Chrysler's hoping that at one end they can get the value buyer at the beginning, and at the top end they can compete with some other more premium brands. I've always liked the 300. It's not so much about the styling, the interior, it's the way it drives. So the Chrysler 300 is available with the 3.6-liter Pentastar V6 and the 5.7-liter Hemi. We'll talk about the 3.6 first. That's really the volume seller in the Canadian marketplace. It comes with 292 horsepower, but if you get the S model, that's the one we're driving here with the bigger wheels, it's available with 300 horsepower. Now, all-wheel drive is only available on the V6 cars, not the V8 cars. Then when you get into the V8, the Hemi-equipped cars, the power goes up substantially to 363 horsepower. Now the other change is previously the 8-speed automatic transmission with the rotary dial here was only available with V6 cars. Now the 8-speed is available with the 5.7-liter Hemi. That makes it more drivable, gives you more options and ratios and gears, and it also makes it more efficient. Then you add in the electric power steering. Now, the negative side of electric power steering is some people aren't crazy about the feel, but the upside is that it is programmable. And there's another change they've made for this car is there's a sport button, and that changes the parameters of the steering, the engine mapping and the transmission mapping to make it sportier. You can hit a button here on the center console, or you can just use the transmission toggle. Then you have access to the manual settings with the paddle shifters. Now, if you just want to change the weight of the steering on its own, you can go into the center cluster here and change that. So that makes the car more adaptable to individual tastes, whether you like it heavy or firm. And one thing it does do on the highway, it firms things up really quite nicely. Now, I got to tell you, I have always liked the Chrysler 300. You got to think way back 10 years to 2005 when that 300 came out. That was part of the marriage they had with Daimler, Mercedes-Benz. underneath this car and all the 300s over the last 10 years has been, at the essence, Mercedes-Benz platform. Yes, that they've modified over the years and they've made changes to, but it is a fantastic platform. If you're somebody that likes a lot of highway driving, say you live in Canada in the summer and you're a snowbird and you drive down to the United States in the winter time, this would be a fantastic car to put mile after mile on. It's very big and comfortable and cruises. I do notice though, with this sport model with the 20-inch wheels, it's a bit choppier than I'm used to in the 300, but you can of course get different versions depending on your taste. It's got lane keep assist that you can actually program the sensitivity of it to keep you in the lanes, forward collision mitigation with warning and autonomous stopping. It'll stop you automatically. The adaptive cruise control that you can use that same system to stop and go in city traffic. All the latest blind spot warning, you name it, is all available now in the Chrysler 300. So if you want all of that stuff, you can certainly get it in this car. Now Chrysler with this 300 has priced it very well. It has more standard features on all trim levels than the major competition, which would be the Taurus, the Impala, and they believe the Hyundai Genesis. The S model has these really nice looking 20-inch wheels and a host of other go fast looking bits. That's the one thing that's nice about it. You can get it looking very classy and elegant or aggressive and sporty depending on your taste. It's not a big market in Canada, but if you want a car and you want to head out on the open road and cruise along in comfort and style, this one's actually pretty hard to beat.